They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I think it's best served petty. Today, we're feasting on some of the most hilariously strange ways people have gotten even. From an old woman's brilliant coin trick on a rude clerk to a roommate's greasy Xbox prank, you're about to hear stories that prove the best payback is often the most creative. These people didn't just get mad, they got even in the most humiliating ways possible. There's a special kind of joy that comes from seeing someone who's done wrong get exactly what's coming to them. It's that little spark you feel when karma stops being a theory and starts taking action. But the stories we've found today, these aren't just karma. They're brilliantly executed masterpieces of retaliation, cooked up by people who were pushed just a little too far. So settle in, because we're about to take a trip into the world of glorious and often hilarious comeuppance. Before we dive into our first tale, if you enjoy stories of the strange, the dark, and the satisfying, make sure you're subscribed to Nightfall Narrative. Our first story is proof that the best revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, all it takes is a little patience and a deep understanding of your target's own arrogance. This is the tale of an elderly woman who faced off against a miserable post office clerk and won with nothing more than a single coin. Picture it, a long line at the post office, and an elderly lady finally gets to the counter, only to be met with a clerk who clearly hates his job. After a grumpy transaction, the clerk says she owes a small amount. The woman finds a 50-cent piece in her purse, but as she hands it over, it slips and falls on the clerk's side of the counter. With a huge sigh and an eye roll, the clerk looks down at the coin and then flicks it away with his shoe, rudely telling her to find another way to pay. So the woman, without a word, pulls out another coin, pays for her stamp, and starts to leave. But here's the kicker. That 50-cent piece she dropped, she'd seen it on the floor when she first walked up. After the clerk so rudely dismissed it, she calmly paid, knowing that to balance his drawer at the end of the day, he'd have to get on his hands and knees and find that exact coin. It's a beautiful, simple, and utterly brilliant act of quiet revenge. From a post office to the chaos of shared living, our next story proves that payback can be both personal and disgustingly effective. This story is about a gamer whose roommate had a seriously annoying habit. Every time he walked past and saw our hero deep in an Xbox game, he would reach over and turn the console off with a smug grin. It happened over and over. Complaints were ignored, pleading didn't work. So our hero decided to speak a language the roommate would understand, pure pettiness. The plan was diabolical. That evening, he cooked chicken for dinner. Afterwards, he took some of the leftover chicken grease and carefully smeared a thin, invisible layer of it all around the Xbox's power button. The trap was set. The next day, right on cue, the roommate strolled by, saw the game in progress, and went for his signature move. But just as his finger got close, the house dog, lured by the scent of chicken grease, bounded over. The dog started sniffing and licking furiously at the power button, blocking the roommate's finger and turning the console off itself in the process. Not only did the prank work perfectly, but it also gave the roommate a new problem: a dog that was now obsessed with licking his Xbox. The interruptions stopped immediately. Now let's talk about a cardinal sin: stealing a coworker's lunch. When one person's lunch kept disappearing from the office fridge, their spouse cooked up a revenge plot so perfect that it would not only identify the thief, but also serve them a dose of immediate gastrointestinal justice. For weeks, the victim's lunch would vanish. Frustrated, their spouse decided to take matters into their own hands. The plan centered around a bright red Gatorade, which was always taken along with the food. This time, though, the Gatorade would have a secret ingredient: a potent, flavorless liquid laxative. They mixed a very generous dose into the bottle, creating a beverage that looked innocent but was actually a ticking time bomb. The next day, the bait lunch was placed in the fridge, and sure enough, it disappeared. They just had to wait. A few hours later, a frantic email went out from a coworker in a totally different department. The email was a desperate plea for someone to cover his duties for the rest of the day because of a sudden and violent illness. The thief was caught. He was never seen near the office fridge again, and you can only imagine the miserable afternoon he had, all thanks to a stolen drink. Our final story in this section takes us into the messy world of breakups. When one person discovered their partner had been unfaithful, they chose a path of culinary deception that was as cruel as it was creative. The ex, now living alone, apparently wasn't a great cook and kept complaining about missing home-cooked meals. Seeing an opportunity, our hero reached out with a seemingly kind offer. "I made way too much mashed potatoes. Do you want some?" The ex, hungry and nostalgic, eagerly said yes. But what the ex didn't know is that these were not asterisk mashed potatoes. They weren't even food. The creator of this revenge used to work in fast food and knew a little trick. They took a huge amount of the white, greasy shortening used for the fries, a substance that looks exactly like creamy mashed potatoes. They whipped it up in a bowl, added salt and pepper for authenticity, and even made a little well in the center. It was a masterpiece of edible art. When the ex arrived, they eagerly took a massive spoonful of what they thought was creamy potato goodness. The result was instantaneous. The moment the pure grease hit their tongue, they started vomiting uncontrollably. It was a brutal, visceral, and unforgettable way to say goodbye. The workplace can be a battlefield, and when you're dealing with a toxic boss, the high road can feel pretty unsatisfying. These next stories are for anyone who's ever fantasized about getting one glorious victory over a tyrannical manager. This first tale is a masterclass in malicious compliance. It comes from an employee who, after giving his 2 weeks' notice, was humiliated by his screaming, power-tripping boss. The boss did not take the news well. He flew into a rage, screaming, "Pack up your personal effects and get out. Security will escort you." As the employee gathered his things, the boss pointed to a stack of floppy disks. "Yeah, this was a while ago," and sneered. "And don't even think about taking company property. In fact, you know what? Destroy that disk right there." He was pointing to a specific disk, one that contained a custom database overlay the boss relied on daily but had no idea how to recreate. The employee knew this. He knew destroying that disk would bring his boss's entire workflow to a screeching halt. With the security guard as his witness, he held up the disk and asked, "You're ordering me to destroy this disk?" The boss, puffed up with authority, yelled, "Yes, destroy it now and get out." So, the employee did exactly as he was told. He snapped the disk in half and dropped it in the trash. As he was escorted out, he could almost hear the gears turning in his boss's head as he slowly realized what he'd just done. Sometimes, one person quitting isn't enough. Our next story involves 3 key office workers at a small construction company who decided they'd all had enough at the same time. The owner worked them to the bone, and promises of help were always empty. One Friday, after a particularly awful week, the 3 of them had a quiet chat. They had all reached their breaking point. On Monday morning, they walked into the owner's office together and handed him their resignation letters, effective immediately. The owner completely panicked. He went from begging to threatening, telling them they'd never work in this town again. But their minds were made up. They packed their things and walked out, leaving the office in total collapse. The owner was left with schedules he didn't understand and clients he couldn't manage. The fallout was severe. All 3 workers found better, higher-paying jobs within weeks. The company, however, stumbled along for about a year before completely collapsing. It's a powerful reminder that while one employee might be replaceable, a whole team walking out can be a death sentence for a bad business. Now for a story that combines a dramatic exit with a perfect parting shot. Exit interviews are usually just a formality, but for one manager, it was his chance to burn a bridge, douse it in gasoline, and dance on the ashes. This manager had worked for years under a vice president who was famous for taking credit for others' work and making life miserable. Our hero had been documenting everything. For years, he kept a detailed record of the VP's misdeeds. When he finally resigned, he walked into that final HR meeting with a folder full of receipts. He sat down and calmly laid out the entire sordid history. He detailed how the VP accepted kickbacks from vendors. He explained how the VP had fired a talented employee just to give the job to an unqualified friend. He even brought up the time the VP accepted lavish gifts, like prime Super Bowl tickets, from a contractor, a clear violation of company policy. HR listened, their faces growing more and more serious. The VP's reputation was shattered. It was a mic drop moment that turned a standard HR procedure into an unforgettable reckoning. Our final workplace revenge story is a delicious tale of broken promises and sweet karma from an ice cream shop. A dedicated employee had worked tirelessly to boost sales, and her manager had promised her a big raise and a promotion if she hit her targets. She poured her heart into the job, and sales doubled. But when she went to her manager to claim her reward, he pulled the rug out from under her. Instead of a promotion, he demoted her, claiming he needed to cut costs. Furious, she plotted a subtle but devastating revenge. She knew another employee at a different location hadn't been paid for weeks, but didn't know how to report it. So, on her way out, our hero accidentally left a piece of paper on the counter with the corporate HR contact info written on it. She made sure the unpaid worker saw it, and then she quit. The unpaid employee made the call. An investigation was launched, and it uncovered a hornet's nest of wage theft. The owner was exploiting people across multiple stores. The consequences were catastrophic for him. The store was shut down by corporate, and the toxic manager was gone. If you're enjoying these tales of righteous payback, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for Nightfall Narrative. It lets me know you want more, and trust me, I've got plenty. Also, I have to ask, which story so far is your favorite? The greasy Xbox? The laxative Gatorade? Let me know in the comments which one you think was the most perfect revenge. Now, back to the stories. We've seen pettiness at work, but now we're entering the heart of darkness. Personal betrayal. When someone you trust hurts you, the payback can be something that haunts them for years. This is the story of the toothbrush betrayal. A woman discovered her long-term boyfriend was cheating on her. As she was packing to leave their apartment, she knew she had to do something that would be a long, slow burn. She noticed he had just bought a huge, wholesale-sized box of his favorite toothbrushes. An evil, brilliant idea began to form. She took the entire box of brand-new toothbrushes into the bathroom. Then she started to clean. She scrubbed the grimiest parts of the toilet, inside and out. She cleaned the floor, the sink, and every disgusting corner of the bathroom. And she did it all using his brand-new toothbrushes, one by one. After the bathroom was sparkling, she carefully rinsed each toothbrush, made them look pristine, and sealed the box back up so it looked brand new. She left the box for him and moved out. But the revenge wasn't over. Years went by. Then, on the anniversary of their breakup, she sent him a simple, chilling message. It was a collection of photos she had taken all those years ago, pictures of his beloved toothbrushes scrubbing the filth from the toilet. She ended the message with, "Hope you've enjoyed your clean teeth. Using the last one yet?" The sheer psychological horror of realizing you've been cleaning your mouth with a toilet brush for years is a level of revenge that is both monstrous and magnificent. From long-term torment, we move to a more modern form of payback. In today's world, our streaming watch lists are sacred. So when one person discovered their partner was cheating, they decided to turn their shared DVR into a monument of betrayal. The plan wasn't just to delete their partner's favorite shows. That was too simple. The revenge had to be symbolic. The Avenger went onto their shared DVR system and didn't just erase the sports games and movies. They meticulously set the DVR to record only one show, on every single channel it aired on. Cheaters. Imagine the cheaters' confusion. They come home, ready to watch the game, only to find it's been replaced by an episode of Cheaters. They try to find their favorite drama series. Gone, replaced by another episode of Cheaters. Every time they turned on the TV, they were confronted with the theme of their own transgression. It was a brilliant, passive-aggressive masterpiece. Money and love are a dangerous mix, and this next story is a deeply satisfying tale of an engagement ring, a video game console, and a perfect swap. A woman was heartbroken when her fiancé broke off their engagement. The pain got worse when she found out he had pawned the engagement ring she'd returned to him. And what did he buy with the money from that symbol of their supposed love? An Xbox. The sheer audacity was staggering. A while later, she learned through a friend that the ex was going out of town for the weekend. She also happened to know where he kept his spare key. While he was away, she let herself into his apartment. She didn't break anything or steal anything of his. She just made a simple exchange. She took the Xbox, the very console bought with her pawned engagement ring, and left a little note explaining. But the revenge had a second, even more satisfying chapter. She gave the Xbox to her new partner. So not only did the cheating ex lose his prize, but he also had to live with the knowledge that his betrayal was now powering the entertainment of his replacement. Our final tale of personal betrayal is a quiet, devastating story about trust and keys. A man had given his girlfriend a key to his apartment, a symbol of their shared life. But that trust was shattered when he discovered she had been using that key for the ultimate betrayal. He found out she had been using his own apartment as a revolving door for her affairs, bringing home at least 7 different people while he was at work. He could have confronted her, had a massive fight, but he chose a different, colder path. He didn't say a word. He just waited for a day. He knew she would be out. While she was gone, he silently packed up every single item she owned. Her clothes, her toiletries, her decorations, everything was neatly placed into boxes. He then moved all of her things out of his apartment and dropped them off with a mutual friend. When the girlfriend returned to the apartment, using her key, she was met with an eerie silence. Nothing was broken, nothing was out of place, except for one thing: every trace of her existence had been scrubbed clean. Her key no longer worked. There was no dramatic breakup, just the cold, hard reality that she had been completely erased from his life. We've explored the modern art of petty revenge, but the desire for payback is as old as time. Long before you could mail someone a glitter bomb, revenge was a much more visceral affair. These next 2 stories from the annals of history prove that, when it comes to extreme retribution, our ancestors wrote the book. First, we travel to the 10th century, to the land of Kiev and Rus, to meet one of history's most formidable women, Olga of Kiev. After a neighboring tribe, the Drevlians, brutally murdered her husband, Igor, they had the nerve to send messengers to the widowed Olga, proposing she marry their prince, the man who had just killed her husband. Olga, seemingly grieving, agreed to meet them. But this was the beginning of one of the most calculated revenge campaigns in history. First, she had the Drevlian envoys dropped into a pre-dug trench and buried alive. But she was just getting started. She then requested their most distinguished men to escort her to the wedding. When they arrived, she invited them to clean up in a bathhouse. Once they were all inside, she barred the doors and burned it to the ground. Still not satisfied, she traveled to the Drevlian capital for a funeral feast. After getting 5,000 Drevlians completely drunk, she had her soldiers slaughter every last one of them. For her final act, she laid siege to their main city. When they begged for mercy, she offered a light tribute, 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each house. Relieved, they complied. Olga then had her soldiers tie a piece of sulfur to each bird's leg. The birds were released, flew back to their nests in the wooden city, and the entire city went up in flames. From there, we journey to feudal Japan for a story of honor, patience, and sacrifice, the legend of the 47 Ronin. This tale begins in 1701, when a minor lord, Asano Naganori, was publicly insulted by a powerful court official named Kira. Humiliated, Asano drew his sword and wounded Kira, a forbidden act inside the castle. For this crime, Lord Asano was sentenced to commit seppuku, or ritual suicide. His samurai were now masterless, Ronin. Kira, who provoked the incident, went unpunished. This was an intolerable injustice to Asano's 47 most loyal samurai. Led by Oishi Kurenasuke, they made a secret pact to avenge their master. But they knew Kira would be expecting it, so they played the long game. They dispersed, taking up jobs as merchants and monks. Oishi himself pretended to be a broken drunk to throw Kira's spies off his scent. For nearly 2 years, they waited. Finally, on a snowy night in December 1702, the 47 Ronin launched a surprise attack on Kira's mansion. After a fierce battle, they found the cowardly official hiding. They offered him an honorable death, and when he refused, they beheaded him. They then marched to their master's tomb and placed Kira's head before it. Their mission complete, all 47 of them turned themselves in and were sentenced to commit seppuku, an honorable end. Their story became a national legend in Japan, a powerful tale of loyalty and the unwavering pursuit of justice. While historical rampages are great stories, sometimes revenge is as simple as letting the laws of physics do the work for you. These final stories are about comeuppance that is swift, immediate, and served up by the universe itself. Our first story is for anyone who's ever been aggressively tailgated. One driver found themselves being harassed by an impatient road warrior glued to their bumper. The driver in front was already speeding, but it wasn't enough. The tailgater was gesturing wildly and getting dangerously close. Then, karma intervened in the form of a pothole. The lead driver saw it just in time and swerved. The tailgater, however, was following so closely that they had no time to react. They hit the pothole head-on, full speed. The impact was so violent that it sent the driver's phone flying and caused their head to slam hard against the roof of the car. The driver in front watched in their rearview mirror as the aggressive car suddenly slowed down. The tailgating stopped. It was a perfect, instant physics lesson. Next, a story about a condescending stranger who learned that arrogance can come back to splash you in the face. A person in a coffee shop accidentally spilled a little coffee on the windshield of a parked car. Being a decent person, they went to get napkins to clean it. As they came back, the car's owner walked up. The coffee spiller apologized profusely, but the man just looked down his nose and said, "Do you know who I am? I'm a doctor." He then got into his car, clearly too important to be bothered. But as the doctor started his car, he must have been so flustered that he put it in reverse instead of drive. He hit the gas, backing right into the car behind him. The best part? The impact caused the coffee on his windshield to slide down and splash directly into his open window, all over his self-important face. Our final story is a simple piece of revenge against a group of entitled brats at the beach. A man had just finished building the perfect sandcastle when a group of kids ran up and kicked it to smithereens, laughing as they went. So he decided to rebuild. But this time it would be a fortress. He found a large, solid rock and built a new sandcastle around it, disguising it perfectly. He sat back and waited. Soon enough, the same kids came running over, ready for another round. One of them pulled back their leg for a mighty kick, aiming for the biggest tower, the one hiding the rock. The sound was not the soft poof of sand, but a hard, painful thud, followed by a howl of agony. Their reign of terror was over, defeated by a cleverly disguised piece of geology. And there you have it, a tour through the brilliant and bizarre world of revenge. From a quiet coin trick to the fiery wrath of a medieval queen, these stories show us that the drive for payback is a powerful and creative force. They are a testament to human ingenuity in the face of frustration, and let's be honest, we were cheering for them every step of the way. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the art of the comeback. Which story was the most satisfying to you? The epic historical sagas or the small, petty victories? Let me know in the comments. And if you have a revenge story of your own, I want to hear it. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Nightfall Narrative for more. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't get mad, get creative.